You know how people say nature is peaceful? Yeah, not always. Because out in the Russian Far East, a place that looks like it was carved straight out of a survival horror movie, one 19-year-old girl named Olga Moskalyova learned the hard way that the wild doesn't forgive mistakes. It was late August 2011. Olga and her stepfather Igor Tsiganenkov decided to go fishing near the village of Termalny, not far from Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. To them, it was just a normal trip. They'd done this before. Rivers full of salmon, quiet forests, cool air, it felt like freedom. But those same rivers, yeah, you know what's coming. They're also where the bears feed. So when a mother brown bear and her 3 cubs came out of the woods, it wasn't some cute National Geographic moment. It was a death sentence. The mother lunged first, straight for Igor. The force of the impact broke his neck instantly, skull crushed, gone in seconds. Olga saw everything, and honestly, I promise you that if you had to choose if you were Olga or Igor, you have chosen Igor. Because what happens next, bro? I mean, that was pure nightmare fuel. Olga runs, barefoot. You can almost hear the panic. Branches snapping, her breath getting shorter, that pounding heartbeat that's louder than her own footsteps. The forest suddenly feels alive. Not in a good way, in a "this place wants me dead" kind of way. But bears? They're not slow, clumsy cartoon animals. Nah, they can hit 35 miles an hour easy. You're not outrunning that. You could be Usain Bolt with jet engines. Still not making it. So, needless to say, she doesn't get very far. The bear catches her, grabs her leg, yanks her down, and the sound she must have made. I don't even want to imagine it. Dirt in her mouth, claws in her back, pure chaos. And somehow, she still manages to pull out her phone. Think about that. While being mauled, she's dialing her mom. Tatiana answers, probably expecting a normal,
Эй, мы уже едем домой.
Instead, she gets,
Мама, медведь меня ест. Мама, это такая боль. Мама, помоги.
At first, Tatiana's like, okay, this has to be a joke. Her daughter was known for pranking her. But then she hears it. That low, guttural growl, the sound of tearing, that wet, awful chewing sound, and she realizes her daughter isn't kidding. So she calls Igor's phone. No answer, obviously. He's already gone. Then Olga calls again. Her voice is shaking, weaker now.
Мама, медведи вернулись. Она пришла снова и привела 3 детенышей. Они меня едят.
Bro, can you even process that? Like, she's narrating her own death in real time, and her mom can't do anything. She's miles away, completely powerless. That's the kind of horror no movie could ever replicate. By the 3rd call, Olga's voice changes.
Мама, больше не больно. Я не чувствую боли. Прости меня за все. Я тебя очень люблю.
And that's it. The line goes dead. By the time rescuers show up, it's too late. The mother bear and her cubs are still there, still eating Igor. Olga's body is nearby, torn apart. It's the kind of scene that burns itself into your brain forever. Emergency services didn't hesitate. They called in hunters, ordered them to track and kill the mother bear and her cubs. Tatiana never recovered. She said her daughter had just gotten her driver's license, had plans to become a psychologist. All that potential, gone. Because in the wilderness, you don't get plot armor. You either respect it, or it eats you. In November of 1992, 4 friends dropped into a cave called Banshee Hole, tucked deep in the forests of eastern Tennessee. They thought it'd be just another weekend adventure. Ropes, mud, a few good stories to tell later, but it turned into something else entirely. The entrance alone was enough to make your stomach drop, a 95-foot vertical shaft disappearing straight into blackness. Standing at the edge, you could feel the cold air rising from below, like the cave was breathing. It wasn't the most dangerous spot in the region, but it wasn't a place for beginners either, and that's where things started to go wrong. One of the guys, the least experienced of the group, had never actually done a vertical descent before. He'd read about it, practiced knots on trees, and figured he could handle the real thing. That optimism, it kills a lot of people in caves. He went first, rappelling nearly 100 feet down into the dark. At first, everything was fine. They explored a few tunnels, crawled through tight spaces, got muddy, typical caver stuff. But when it was time to climb back up, he volunteered to go first again. He'd built his own chest harness from nylon webbing, no seat support, nothing to distribute his weight. Basically, a DIY straitjacket. He started inching his way up using mechanical ascenders, little metal grips that slide upward but lock when they're weighted. It worked fine until he hit the lip near the top, where the shaft flares outward. To get past that spot, you have to pull yourself over with your upper body strength, but his setup was all wrong. Every time he tried to move, the chest harness cinched tighter around his ribs. He could barely breathe. The others heard the change in his breathing first, shallow, panicked, echoing down the shaft. They climbed up to help, pushing from below, trying to adjust the webbing, but every tug only made it worse. One of them had to climb out to get help. By the time rescuers arrived, about 40 minutes later, he'd been hanging there for hours. They set up a pulley system, got him over the edge, but as soon as they pulled him free, his body went limp. He never regained consciousness. The official cause of death was positional asphyxia. Basically, the harness crushed his chest so tightly he couldn't draw air. It's one of those tragedies that's almost too frustrating to think about because it was preventable. The man didn't die in a collapse or a flood. He suffocated inside his own gear, fully aware of what was happening, and that's what sticks with rescuers even now. Max Thomas, 60, wasn't an amateur camper. He knew the woods, knew the risks, and figured he'd be fine for one more night near Sam's Throne, a quiet stretch of forest where the Ozarks feel endless. Just him, his gear, and the kind of silence most people pay to escape to. Earlier that day, he texted his family a few photos. A black bear had wandered near his campsite. And before I go on, you've got to understand something about black bears. They're not small, cuddly, or even always black. They can weigh anywhere between 200 and 600 pounds, and the big males, they can hit close to 700. And their claws? Bro, those things are no joke. About 2 inches long, curved like knives, built for climbing trees or tearing open logs. Or, if it comes to it, a person. So, back to Max. Earlier that day, Max had messaged his family a few pictures from the site. In one of them, the bear can be seen passing close to his tent, calm, quiet, watching him from just a few yards away. Looking at that photo, you can't help but think, what the hell was he doing just standing there? A bear that close isn't some cool wilderness moment. It's a death wish. Maybe he thought it made for a badass shot. Either way, that picture feels less like a memory, and more like a warning. Fast forward a few hours, and then the messages just stopped. Yep. You already know where this is heading. When his family couldn't reach him, deputies went looking. What they found wasn't peaceful anymore. Max's campsite was torn apart, tent ripped, cooler smashed, drag marks streaking into the woods. He was found several yards away, brutally mauled. The medical examiner later said it outright, death by animal mauling, the kind of phrasing that doesn't leave much room for imagination. Investigators believe the bear attacked as Max was packing up. Maybe startled, maybe just fearless. This bear wasn't afraid of people. It had been seen wandering near other campers, caught on trail cameras acting like it owned the place. After the attack, investigators compared this exact photo to the bear they later tracked down. Same size, same pale markings on the face, even the same patch of forest. Sheriff Glenn Wheeler confirmed it, saying, "We knew the bear in the photos was a male, and this one is too. It matches the size and facial colorations, not to mention it was right back in the same area." A few days later, wildlife officers located the bear and made the call to euthanize it. It was a decision that split opinions. Some said it was necessary, others called it unfair, because in the end, the bear wasn't trespassing on his land. He was in his. It was living exactly where it always had, long before Max ever pitched his tent beneath those trees. August 18th, 2022, Southern Oregon. A 25-year-old wildland firefighter heads out before dawn with his crew. Lightning storms had rolled through the night before, sparking new fires across Josephine County. The air still smelled like rain and smoke, that weird mix of calm and danger. By mid-afternoon, around 3:30 p.m., the crew was in the Rum Creek area, taking a short pause to plan their next move. No chainsaws running, no trees being cut, just a moment of quiet. And then, out of nowhere, crack. A nearby pine, tall, green, and full of life at first glance, suddenly gave way from the inside. There was no warning, no slow creak that would have sent anyone running. It just broke. The sound was sharp, like thunder cracking right above your head, and before anyone could react, the tree came crashing down. It hit the 25-year-old directly. The forest, which had been quiet a moment earlier, exploded into noise. Shouts, radios crackling, the scrape of boots on dirt as everyone sprinted toward him. They get him out fast, call for emergency evac, do everything right, but it's no use. The tree had already done its damage. Later, investigators found out that same tree had actually been struck by lightning before. It looked perfectly fine on the outside. Green needles, solid bark, but inside it was completely fire-scarred, rotted out like a burned matchstick. And that's what blows my mind every time. This thing looked alive. You'd never know it was basically a wooden landmine waiting for someone to stand in the wrong spot.